Hello, what's up? Thanks so much for stopping by, or if this is your first time here, welcome. If you decide I'm worthy enough by the end of this video, I would love if you subscribed. That way we can hang out some more in my future videos. Anyways, today we are talking some new drugstore products. Maybelline recently launched a new foundation as well as a new blush. The blush is more like an extra credit little sideshow of this video, so we'll talk about him later. The star of the show is the brand new Dream Radiant Liquid Hydrating Foundation. Initially, when I first saw this pop up on Amazon, I thought that this was just a repackaged version of the Dream Urban Cover Foundation. As you can see, the color scheme is very similar. Not only is there the Radiant one, there's also a satin finish as well. So I guess 3 total in this line, but they are 2 totally different foundations. So the Dream Radiant Liquid Foundation is marketed as a hydrating foundation, whereas the Dream Urban Cover Foundation was a protective anti-pollutant type of foundation. This foundation comes in 20 different shades. It retails for $10.99. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be the same price once it launches at Target and Walmart. I'm pretty sure I paid $8.99 for the Urban Cover when it first launched at Target. Since this one is glass and comes in a pump, I'm guessing it probably will be around $9.99 to $10.99 once it's in local retailers. Even more at CVS and Walgreens, because you know they always try to be greedy with their prices. So the shade that I'm using today is 70 Pure Beige. It has hyaluronic acid as well as collagen. It claims to give you 12 hours of hydration, and it's supposed to be a light to buildable medium finish. More than anything, I was just interested as soon as I saw the word radiant. I did a recent drugstore, my top 3 favorite foundations at the drugstore. If you don't know, or if you're new here, luminous, radiant, glowy type of foundations are my jam. So as soon as I saw the name of this one, I was just like, yeah, I need you in my life. So there are kind of the cliff notes of the foundation. Now we can go ahead and get into the demo. All right, so before we jump into the foundation, I wanna go in and prime the skin. If you guys caught my latest video, I talked all about my top 3 favorite foundations from the drugstore, and I went in with a primer that I really didn't think did much when it came to like pore blurring or smoothing the skin. More than anything, it just gives my skin a really nice hydrated base. So for that, I'm going in with the Becca First Light Priming Filter. It doesn't do anything to like minimize or blur pores, so I don't think it's going to do much to alter the actual formula of the foundation. Now for tools, we have 2 different options, just a classic sponge. This is one from Amazon, as well as the Sigma F80. I pretty much always go in with a sponge, but for the sake of the video, I thought we would go ahead and maybe do half and half. That way you could see how they apply on both sides. So the shade that I picked up is 70 Pure Beige. I went through and buffed off all my self-tanner, so this is my current natural shade. Let's go ahead and just start off with 1 full pump first and see where that takes us. Right off the bat, this one does look like it has more of a true foundation gel-like consistency versus the Dream Urban Cover. That definitely had a little bit more of a runnier consistency. Okay, so let's just go ahead and, oh, actually now that it's on the face, it does look like it's a little bit more yellow than I thought. And the color actually looks pretty spot on. My neck always ends up being a little bit darker than my face, so I think this will blend in nicely. I'm just gonna take about half that amount, or maybe a little bit less than half, and just dot it all over my cheek. I already like the feeling of it. It is very lightweight. It doesn't feel heavy or cakey on the skin. Coverage-wise, right off the bat, I would definitely say it is light coverage. The coverage honestly looks very similar to the first layer of the Dream Urban Cover. Whenever I swatched these side by side on my hand, honestly, they reminded me a lot of each other, besides like the viscosity. One was slightly thicker. Okay, yeah, that is very light coverage. I do see a little bit of the radiance coming through, but definitely light coverage. Okay, let's see what we can get with the brush. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the rest of that pump and dot this all over my face. I don't mind a natural light coverage, but I just feel like there's still even just uneven skin tone peeking through. I am getting more coverage with the brush though, which is typical. I mean, I like this sponge just because I feel like it gives my skin more of a natural finish rather than looking so makeup-like. That's why I pretty much always gravitate towards a sponge. I wouldn't even call that medium coverage. I would just say maybe like a high light coverage. I can already tell just from the formula of this foundation, this is one that you could leave on your skin for a bit before you went in and blended in. It's not something that's going to dry down right away. For instance, like the Revlon Color Stay from way back when. Does anybody still really use that foundation? Surely they do. I was a fan a long time ago, but I actually tried it again recently because Revlon sent over 2 bottles as PR. and I just couldn't do it. It just feels heavy on my skin, and it's something, even whenever you buy the dry formula, I feel like you still have to go in and blend it out right away. Otherwise it dries down immediately. This is something that definitely does feel very hydrating on the skin. So it stays wet on the face for a while. With 2 layers, I'm definitely getting buildable coverage now. This, I would say, is a medium coverage, which is exactly what they said it would be. They said light to buildable medium, and that's what I'm seeing. Ooh, I really do like the radiance I'm getting from it though. Now that I'm blending it out, I do see a difference between this one and the Dream Cover. The Dream Cover, like, it stayed wet on my skin for a while, but it eventually kind of dried down to a natural, slightly satin finish, to where if you have really dry skin, I felt like I could leave it as is and wouldn't have to set it. But I'm definitely seeing more of a radiant, glowy finish with this one. Like, the actual look of it, the finish of it, not the formula, is kind of giving me the same sort of glow that I get from NARS Sheer Glow, which will forever be one of my favorite foundations. It's just that same natural, luminous finish. Okay, I am really starting to like this. And it doesn't seem to be like sinking into those areas. Obviously, I could see the pores. If I were to go in with like e.l.f. Poreless Putty, I think it would look really nice and smooth in those areas, but it's not doing anything where it's just like sinking into like the deep dark abyss that is my pores. Right here is where I would typically stop, but for reviews, I always like to see how it'll build up. And even right now, I feel like the first way you can tell if a foundation is cakey or not is when you smile. Typically, you can kind of feel like tugging or just like movement around your smile lines, especially if you have deep smile lines like myself. And I'm not feeling any of that. So it's not feeling heavy or cakey. I can already kind of tell though, this is going to be something where if you have really oily skin, you're gonna wanna set it for sure. So even though it's still like tacky and very hydrating feeling on the skin, it's not like settling in or like slipping and sliding. Sometimes when something is so moist, for instance, the It Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye Concealer, that's something that just instantly settles into fine lines and wrinkles. Honestly, it feels a lot like a tinted moisturizer on the skin. It just feels very hydrating and moisturizing, but just with a really nice radiant finish. Okay, I'm very happy with this so far. So it's been about 15 minutes since I first applied the foundation. Howard had to go out, FedEx came by, and I do feel like a little bit of the radiance kind of dulled down, and it could just be because the foundation started to set a little bit more, but even after the 15 minutes, I do still feel some tackiness. So if you can't handle any sort of stickiness on your face, you are gonna wanna go through and fully set it. I did go and apply some concealer. I just went in with the Maybelline Age Rewind and a little bit of the Laura Mercier Under Eye Brightening Setting Powder. So just right there. Everywhere else is still fully tacky with the foundation. There's no, wow, this 5 head though. There's no powder anywhere else because I wanted to go in with another liquid product. This is one of the new Maybelline Cheek Heat Sheer Gel Cream Blushes. I have some notes down here. There's 6 different shades. It's marketed as a gel cream with a natural flush, oil-free, water-infused, and it claims to be long-lasting. I was between this shade and then I believe Coral Ember, but I thought Nude Burn would be a shade that would go with many different looks. Packaging-wise, it looks very similar to the, what are they called again? I don't have any of them in my collection. The Glossier Cloud Paints, I believe those are a lot more like natural and toned down compared to the Flower Beauty ones. The Flower Beauty ones definitely pack a punch. On Amazon, it said that a little bit of this goes a long way and they recommend you applying it with your fingers. There's just a doink right there on my hand. Let's go ahead and blend out a little bit. Oh, it's a little bit thicker than I thought. Over here, just so we can see a true swatch of it. Oh, huh. It definitely is more of like a wall. Like once you really start to blend it, a little bit goes a long way. It spreads a long way, but I mean, if you spread it so much, then it's going to disappear. This must be very similar to the Glossier Cloud Paints. I can't say for sure, but just from swatches that I've seen, it seems more like that than an actual like cream blush like the Flower Beauty ones, because those just, you get a lot more pigmentation. So while it feels a little bit stiffer at first, once you blend it, it really does kind of melt into a watery texture. So I'm gonna take a little bit more and just dot it right here onto the apples of my cheeks and blend it out. I can see this being long lasting though, just because it is so thin, it kind of like melts right into the skin. It doesn't seem like a formula that's gonna stay tacky. Like when I feel over here, this already just feels like it's completely dried down. So almost like a water type of stain. It is a very pretty color and it does give a dewy finish. After reading a little bit goes a long way. I thought it would be more pigmented, but this is probably more user-friendly just because even if you did go in heavy-handed, you could really press it into the skin. And I don't feel like it's like picking up the foundation that I have on underneath. Yeah, over here, this side is already pretty much completely dried down. I do kind of want to go in just with a little bit more just to see if it is buildable. Or, yeah, I am getting more color now. I think whenever I went in with that second layer, maybe I was supposed to wait a little bit longer for the first layer of blush to dry down more because I do feel like I picked up some of the foundation right here. There was definitely a little bit more coverage before. It's not super noticeable, but just something to take note of. Okay, I feel like that's, whoa. Initial thoughts before we do an end of the day check-in. If you are curious, the time is currently 11:36. If it was like in the middle of summer, I definitely would go in and set it. But for now, I'm just gonna keep my under eye set. I did go in with a little bit of powder. If you are curious, it was just the 𝗟𝗘𝗧 Beauty 𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗏 right down my nose and just right here on my chin. Everywhere else, it's still just the foundation, the blush, concealer, and then some of the Bare Minerals Warmth Bronzer. I have to say, I can already tell just from first impressions, I do prefer this over the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover. If you have been keeping up with my videos, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I've been loving mixing this with the Revlon Candid Foundation. That formula is beautiful together. But if we're just talking solo starring roles right off the bat, I can already tell you that I prefer the Radiant Liquid over the Urban Cover. It's really weird though that this one is marketed as buildable to full, but I definitely feel like I got more coverage out of this one than the Urban Cover. We will check in a few hours and see how this foundation holds up. I went outside for like 2 minutes and I am covered in mosquito bites. I don't know what it is. Bugs love me. It drives me insane. I'm not farting. That's this plastic chair. It is check-in time. How are we doing, folks? Okay, so rounding up this foundation, as you can see, I am looking pretty shiny. Sorry, I'm yelling. I don't know why. Why do I always yell? As I mentioned earlier, the only areas that I ended up going in to set my face was my nose and my chin. I know people that have really oily skin like to be fully matte, but I don't like that look on my skin just because I already have drier areas of my face. So if anything, like things that emphasize dryness, I just steer clear of. Right now, I feel like my skin just looks like, oh, she's sweating a little, she's glistening, but it's not like where foundation is smearing all over the place. I am gonna go ahead and zoom you guys in back into my pores. The foundation at the tip of my nose is wiped off. I've been having issues with that lately, except for when I use my 𝗟𝗑𝗧 Cosmetics gripping primer, then things seem to stay there, but I didn't apply any of that today. So foundation on my nose is gone, but I feel like my smile lines, they're a little bit crepey, like right here, but still for not going in with a loose setting powder and really setting that area, I'm pretty impressed. My forehead is definitely shiny and my skin still has a little bit of a tackiness to it. It's not like sticky, but it's the feeling where if I were to hug someone and they were wearing a white shirt, I'd be a little concerned that there would be some transfer. You know what, let me go ahead and just, I'm not wearing a white shirt right now, but let's just grab this piece of paper. So let's say this is old Johnny's shoulder or Keegan's. And yeah, see, there's, the light, no, there it is, you can see. So it's definitely not transfer proof. If you're not wanting any of your makeup to go anywhere, I would recommend going in and setting it, but then I feel like you would lose some of that radiant quality in the foundation. For someone who's not really touching your face or like hugging people all day, then I think you'd be totally fine. I personally really like the foundation. I definitely see myself getting more use out of it, so much so that I probably would order a deeper shade for when I self-tan. Now, going back to the Urban Dream Cover or Dream Urban Cover, every time I say this name, I always get it wrong. As full coverage protective makeup, I definitely got way more coverage out of the Radiant Liquid. So if I could only pick one of these, I would definitely, like, I could easily declutter this right now and stick to this one. Honestly, the main reason that this one is staying in my collection is because I really love mixing it with the Revlon Candid Foundation. Even whenever I take in the Revlon Candid combination with this into account, I still really like the Radiant Liquid. It's just a really nice foundation, especially if you like something with a luminous finish. But keep in mind, it's definitely more of a buildable medium coverage. You're not getting full coverage, you're not getting matte finish, you're getting radiant, medium, natural finish. Now, for the blush, I don't really see any of it left. I feel like a majority of that is my bronzer. I'm curious if I were to go in and purchase like a deeper shade instead, or something that's a little bit more punchy. Out of the entire shade range, I definitely felt like this was the most natural shade. So that could be why, I don't know, but even on my hand, that color is gone. I thought that it would be a little bit more long wearing just because of how it just like was so thin and melted right onto the skin. It really kind of had that stain-like quality. My cheeks still look kind of glowy, but honestly, I feel like that's more of the highlighter than this blush. But I don't know, the cheek heat, if you're someone who likes a very, very natural flush and you're not worried about long wear, then I think you would like this. But I have a hard time saying that too because I've only tried one shade so far. But either way, if you're looking for a cream or like gel type of blush at the drugstore, I would go with the Flower Beauty one anyways. You get way more pigmentation out of these. These last on my cheeks all day long, and I honestly feel like I'm someone who has cheeks that like eat up product throughout the day. So there are my final thoughts on the Maybelline Dream Radiant Liquid Hydrating Foundation. Let me know down below if you guys plan on picking it up, or if there's any other new drugstore, I'm sorry, I'm itching so bad, my mosquito bites are killing me. If there's any other drugstore releases that you guys would like to see reviews on. As always, thanks so much for spending part of your day with me. If you haven't already subscribed and you like what you saw today, I would love if you did. I'll go ahead and throw a few more videos up here if you have some more time on your hands, and I will catch you in the next one. Cringy, I know. Okay, bye.